Most people do not fall behind all at once. They fall behind quietly, through small payments, small delays, small compromises, and small decisions that looked harmless at the time. It may begin at the kitchen table, after dinner, when the house is quiet and the bills are spread out in front of you. Or it may happen on a computer screen, when someone in their late 50s or early 60s logs in to check a retirement account and stares at a number that feels much smaller than it should. There may be no emergency that day. The mortgage is still being paid. The car still starts in the morning. The groceries are in the refrigerator. The credit card payment went through. From the outside, life may look stable, but inside, something changes. A quiet question starts to form. I worked all these years. So, why does retirement still feel so far away? For many middle-class Americans, that is the uncomfortable truth. The retirement account did not collapse overnight. It was not destroyed by one dramatic mistake. In many cases, it simply never became what people hoped it would become. Not because every household was reckless. Not because every person ignored the future. But because ordinary life kept showing up first. The bill came first. The repair came first. The child needed help. The car needed work. The insurance premium went up. The medical bill arrived. The grocery receipt got longer. And retirement, because it felt distant, kept being pushed into the next month, the next year, the next season of life. According to AARP, many adults over 50 worrying about whether their money will last through retirement. The Federal Reserve has also reported that only a minority of non-retirees say their retirement savings are on track. These are not just numbers in a report. They are people who worked, paid taxes, raised families, kept homes running, and tried to do the responsible thing. But responsibility does not always leave enough room for the future. That is what makes this story so painful. Retirement does not feel urgent when you are younger. It sits somewhere in the distance, behind the mortgage, behind the car payment, behind the children, behind the doctor's bill, behind everything that has to be handled today. And then one day, almost without warning, the distance disappears. The visible problem is simple. Many Americans approaching retirement do not have the savings they expected to have. Some have retirement accounts, but the balances are modest. Some contributed when they could, then stopped when life became expensive. Some planned to catch up later, but later kept moving. AARP has reported that a large share of non-retired adults age 50 and older have less than $50,000 in retirement savings. That number lands differently when retirement is no longer some faraway idea. At 35, it may sound like a warning. At 58 or 62, it can feel like a mirror. The Federal Reserve has also shown that not every older worker has access to, or ownership of, tax-preferred retirement accounts. Among adults ages 55 to 64, roughly 7 in 10 had those accounts, which also means a meaningful share did not. And at that stage of life, time is no longer a quiet helper. It has become one of the hardest parts of the problem. Then there is the reality that many older Americans are still working. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that in 2024, nearly 1 in 5 people aged 65 and older were in the labor force. For some, that may be by choice. Work can provide purpose, routine, and connection. But for others, work in later life may not feel like freedom. It may feel like necessity. Still, the deeper question is not only how much people saved. The deeper question is what kept the account from growing in the first place. And this is where the story becomes more honest. For many households, retirement savings did not lose to luxury. It lost to normal life. Housing came first, the mortgage, the rent, property taxes, repairs, insurance. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that in 2024, housing was the largest category of household spending, averaging more than $26,000 a year and making up about 1/3 of total spending. That is not a small pressure. For many families, it is the center of the budget. Transportation came next, In much of America, a car is not a symbol of wealth. It is how people get to work. It is how they get groceries, visit family, and make it to medical appointments, but it is also expensive. In 2024, transportation averaged more than $13,000 a year for households, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. A car payment may look ordinary, but ordinary payments can still drain extraordinary amounts of money over time. Then comes debt. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York reported that U.S. household debt reached $18.8 trillion in the first quarter of 2026. Mortgage balances, auto loans, and credit card balances all tell the same quiet story. Much of tomorrow's income is already spoken for, and credit cards can be especially deceptive. They can make a household feel as if it is still standing, while the foundation is weakening underneath. The lights are on. The refrigerator has food. The bills are not all late, but if more of the month is being carried on credit, then the future is slowly being pulled into the present. Healthcare adds another weight. Medical bills, dental bills, prescriptions, deductibles, co-pays. These costs do not always arrive politely. They often come when people are already tired. And for someone in their 50s or 60s, even one health issue can interrupt savings at exactly the wrong time. Then inflation changes the feeling of everything. Groceries rise, utilities rise, insurance rises, repairs cost more than expected, and many families do not make one big decision to stop saving for retirement. They make 100 small decisions that seem reasonable in the moment. Not this month, maybe next month. Once things calm down, but life does not always calm down. That is the hidden trap. Retirement is often treated as the money left over after life has been handled. But for many households, there is not much left over. And when the future depends on leftovers, it becomes vulnerable to every emergency, every bill, every price increase, and every obligation that feels more urgent today. The account does not fail loudly, it gets crowded out. This is why so many people feel ashamed when they look at their savings. Even when shamed does not tell the whole story. They may wonder what they did wrong. They may compare themselves to neighbors, relatives, or people online who seem more prepared. They may avoid opening statements because the number feels like a judgment. But the data suggests this is not just a story about individual failure. It is a story about pressure. Housing pressure, transportation pressure, medical pressure, debt pressure, family pressure. The kind of pressure that does not always look dramatic from the outside, but slowly changes what is possible inside a household. In your 30s, it may have been the house, the children, the first real wave of bills. In your 40s, maybe school costs, car loans, credit cards, and the rising costs of keeping a family stable. In your 50s, maybe healthcare, aging parents, adult children, insurance, and the sudden realization that retirement is no longer far away. And by then, time itself has changed size. When you are younger, time feels forgiving. You tell yourself there will be room later. But in your late 50s or early 60s, the runway is shorter. The same monthly bills feel heavier because there are fewer years left to recover from them. For some households, the result is working longer than expected. For others, it means lowering expectations, a smaller home, fewer choices, more dependence on Social Security, delayed care, part-time work after the age when they imagine slowing down. Social Security belongs in this conversation, but it has to be spoken about carefully. It is not accurate to say it is simply disappearing. But recent reporting has raised concerns about projected shortfalls around 2032. For many older Americans, that does not mean panic. It means uncertainty, and when savings are already thin, uncertainty feels heavier. Because retirement is not only about money, it is about dignity. It is about breathing room after decades of work. It is about the hope that one day, life will not be ruled by the next bill. So, when the retirement account is small, the pain is not just mathematical, it is emotional. It can feel like a private failure, even when the pressure was shared by millions. It can feel like proof that all the effort was not enough. But maybe the more honest story is this: many people were not careless with the future. They were overwhelmed by the present. That does not erase responsibility. It does not solve the problem. But it explains why the problem is so common. A person can work hard, live modestly, and still struggle to build lasting security if every dollar has already been claimed before it arrives. The retirement account that never got built is rarely the result of one foolish moment. It is built from delay, one skipped contribution, one emergency on a credit card, one car payment that stretched too far, one medical bill that changed the month, one year when prices rose faster than the paycheck could keep up. Small moments become a pattern, and the pattern becomes a future. This is not a reason to panic. Households are different. Health is different. Income is different. Family responsibilities are different. There is no single number that explains every life. But there is a warning here worth hearing. If retirement money is always waiting for a better month, that better month may not arrive by itself. If every raise disappears into higher bills, the household may look stable while the future remains fragile. If debt payments keep replacing savings, then the present is quietly borrowing from the years ahead. The kitchen table tells the story better than any chart. A mortgage statement, a car payment, a credit card bill, a grocery receipt, an insurance renewal, a medical invoice, each one looks normal on its own. But together, they can explain why a person can work for decades and still feel unprepared. That is what makes this issue so serious. The threat does not always look like a crisis. Sometimes it looks like a normal month, and that may be the most dangerous part. When financial pressure feels normal, people stop recognizing it as a warning. They adjust, they stretch, they stay quiet. They tell themselves everyone is dealing with the same thing. And often, many people are, but shared pressure is still pressure. And time keeps moving whether the account is ready or not. The lesson is not to blame people who are behind. The lesson is to see the pattern clearly. Retirement insecurity often grows slowly, through ordinary decisions made under real pressure. It is not always created by extravagance. Sometimes it is created by trying to keep everything looking stable while feeling uncertain underneath. For Americans in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, this is one of the hardest truths about money. Working hard and becoming financially secure are always the same thing. A person can do the work, pay the bills, and still reach later life wondering why the future feels so thin. The retirement account that never got built is not just a balance on a statement. It is a record of time, pressure, pride, silence, family, debt, and the quiet hope that tomorrow will be easier than today. And maybe that is where the reflection begins. Not with blame, not with shame, not with promises of easy answers, but with the simple recognition that the future cannot always survive on whatever is left over. Because if the future always comes last, one day it arrives and finds very little waiting for it.